Welcome to iPen Vision's podcast, interviews and conversations, where we bring authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and those with a vision to our networking community and platform. Be our guest. Include your article, your ad, your promotions, and upcoming events in our quarterly magazine. We are proud to be a part of the Collective or podcast, a virtual tour showcasing you and your business. Our podcast, the magazine, a virtual tour, all on one platform where networking, creativity, and visions meet. All you have to do is contact us at ipendesign@gmail.com. And tonight, welcome to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Nanette Buchannan, and this is iPen Vision's Interviews and Conversations. And tonight, we have a special guest. And I think that it fell in line as I was setting up everything for it, because we are dealing with men's or males mental health month. So I think that this fits in perfectly because of the simple fact that the gentleman that we're bringing on, he has developed a program to help that and to help us understand what men do go through. So before I do that, I want to bring my partner in, Felice Reeves, bring her to the stage and say hello and see how Puerto Rico is doing this week. How are we, my dear? How are we?
I am very well. Happy to be here as always.
Good. I'm happy to see you. Well, we got hot degrees this time too.
So yes, that's what I heard.
Oh, that's what you heard. Listen to her like she don't know nothing about America anymore. This part of America anyway. Well, I'm quite sure your beaches are nice though.
Be very sure of that.
Very sure of that.
You're not sure of anything else. Be very sure.
Well, we're going to bring our guests on and do what we do and get the show started. So tonight's guest is going to come to the stage, and we're going to bring him in and let him introduce himself and tell us all that he does and all of that good stuff. So tonight's guest, come to the stage, sir. Come to the stage.
Hello, ladies.
How you doing? Nanette, you need to check his name spelling. You're missing it.
I've been but thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's pull that down and let's fix it.
Yes, I know my name is also appearing at the bottom here too, right? You guys can see that?
Yes. Sometimes that goes away, but anyways, got you.
Gotcha. So tonight's guest, we now have it. Tonight's guest, what we do here is we don't spell things right and we don't always get things right. We don't always introduce you right either. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that everything aligns with you and what you do. And the way that we do that is simply to ask you, who are you? And what do you do?
Yes, absolutely. So first and foremost, I am jealous of the fact that you are in Puerto Rico. That said, I do hear you guys. There's some water shortages out there, so I hope you're able to manage.
Don't let that stop you. All that ocean out there. There's no shortage of ocean.
There we go. That makes up for it. Okay, so Mackins Aldina, who am I? I'm a father. I am a husband. I'm an attorney, licensed to practice in New York and Connecticut. I'm also a business consultant. I and my wife, we run a small business consulting firm called MBA Growth Partners. And we work with minority-owned and a lot of women-owned businesses as well. And that is part of what brings me to what the work that I'm doing right now is both a personal journey, but also what I see has been taking place amongst men, and particularly Black men who have never had the privileges afforded to the patriarchy. And so, I see that the issues are there. There's women, Black women are some of the highest in terms of entrepreneurship. Women, Black women particularly, have always had to figure things out. And I think a lot of times, men were thought to know what the heck they were doing. And what was true is that we just had manual labor. We could use our physical strength. And so once that was taken away, we were stripped bare to show that, the emperor basically had no clothes. And so what I do is I realize the kind of things that have held me back and what is necessary to build us up. And so I started a program to do exactly that. So that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about. And I appreciate the platform and the opportunity to speak on it.
And I so love it because of the simple fact that I've always felt that we didn't do, I mean, we've done a lot in history. I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying or what I mean, but we didn't do enough to bring the Black man back to the strength that he was God-given strength.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning from intelligence to physical strength to emotional strength. Mm-hmm. I think our history, and we all know what that history is, stripped us of all of that intentionally. And because it intentionally stripped us of that, we have yet to gain that back. We have yet to even know how to reinforce it, how to put it back in place, how to say it. And women, although we do a great job mothering, we also do a great job cuddling. So a lot of times in our cuddle, we leave out a lot of what is needed to create that basis that is needed. So I appreciate you and your business. Now, let me just ask you one question before we move on about the programs that you've created. You mentioned that you do consulting, business consulting, but do you do the business consulting only in the northern region, or is that business consulting with anyone that would call you and say, hey, I see my business doing this, this, and this. How do I get it right?
Yes.
Is it open to everyone?
It definitely anyone. And so we have had clients in California, but we don't do a lot of marketing per se. And so it'd be, and if we did, I don't know that we would go nationally, at least not yet. We're not that big for us to do that. There's a market that's good enough where we are. But that said, if somebody was watching your podcast and was like, what, I like what he's talking about.
Exactly my point. That was exactly my point, because the thing about it here is one of the things that we pride ourselves in what we try to do, and we're a small business as well. We're growing, but the thing about it is what we try to do is get a networking. So if someone did see you and contacted us, we could say, hey, this is the route you can go, or at least go that route to get information. At least get some guidance. So I wanted to clear that up just in case anyone had that question in mind.
Yes, and I thank you too, because we could always use some more revenue.
Definitely. Now, I have a question, because I was very curious about this after reading your bio, but then it got me to thinking, and sometimes that's not good. I mean, it's always a good thing with danger. So the leap, and it's not, I don't think it's a leap, but let me not put words to what your statement is. So you were drawn to be an attorney, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you pursued that avenue, but what made you look at yourself in the whole thing outside of being an attorney and bridging that gap into business consulting? What happened in that?
That's a great question. So what led me to want to be an attorney is I like to communicate. So that was something that I enjoyed. I also, when I was young, I like to argue. That comes with liking to communicate and liking the way of using words. And so that was one of the reasons. But I was an undergrad. I was a psychology major, so I've always been interested in what drives us, and analyzing people. So that was always there. So it was either going to psychology or law. I decided to go with law because I was more interested in money at the time. So I mean, that always stuck with me, trying to figure us out. I've always been interested in helping our people. And so, it's just different pathways, a circuitous route for me to get to where I felt like, I could add what value experiences that I had.
Okay. So the program that you have is 11 kilometers per second, which is a relational power framework that you've created.
Yes.
So can you explain what was the reason for the name, first off? 11 kilometers per second.
Yes.
I can't even imagine, what that would turn into, how it would turn into. I would love to know how that name came about and why that name.
Yes. So I was looking to come up with something that was interesting and that also served what I felt like I was doing. And so although the name is long and it's not, something that will easily be remembered, at least until you hear precisely where it comes from, I think it does, it is catchy once you know it. So 11 kilometers per second is known as the escape velocity, the speed at which an object must move in order to escape Earth's gravity. And so it's a metaphor for what we must do to escape the things that hold us down and allow us, so that way we can soar into the heavens and, achieve our potential. So that's the, that's the genesis of that name. So did you want me to jump into the relational power framework as well?
Exactly.
Okay. So the relational power framework is how I started to realize what the issues were with respect to men, right? And I'll go back into when you asked me specifically that question, because it could get long. So I'll break it into pieces, but I'll go back into how I came up on this realization. But what I realized is that men believe that power is about domination, right? And so to quickly define what power is, from my perspective, power is the ability to affect change. So if you think of God as the omnipotent person, the all powerful is how quickly I can think something and get it to happen. So I've changed it, right? And so if you are doing destructive power, like Trump is trying to do, it's very easy for you to break things down, get crazy, and dominate. That's easy, but it's so much longer to actually create something. God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, right? His 7 days. And so it takes a lot more time and, to be able to create something, and a lot more effort. And so what I realize is that we misunderstood what true power is, and we were teaching people what power is in the wrong way. It's not about domination. It's about the relational skills, the ability to get people to support you, the ability to get people to follow you. All of those come from relational skills. It's the kind of skills that actually women hone, right? So they say the man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck. So she's able, through her relational skills, to turn the heads. And if you look throughout history, and even now, any organization, any human being actually that attains power does so not because they were able to beat everybody up. And we're talking even like the organizations that are known for violence. You go to a gang, it's not the biggest, strongest person who's leading that gang. He men who could probably beat him up, but it's because of his ability to influence that he gets people to follow him. And so people completely misunderstand power. We got people running around trying to beat each other up, but the people who are in power are the ones who are sending these knuckleheads to beat each other up. And so that realization that true power, if that's what you're looking for, comes from building your relational skills.
Well, one of the things that I saw in the bio was where you said, you were looking at the idea that most capable men are not. And all of this is what they are not. The first thing, and I'm going to break it down into the parts that you put, you said capable men are not broken. Okay. And from our discussion thus far, we're discussing the fact that these are the elements that we know have been forced on us to believe.
Yeah.
And we believe that, the more capable they are and the more they do and everything else, we are now living in a generation, and I say generation because God knows, I hope it changes, where women are thinking if the man is working hard, he's hardly working. You know, that he should be in the Fortune 500 club where he sits behind the desk and makes the money and doesn't do anything with his mind or his hands. And that's not true. So just explain to the audience what you meant by men not being, capable men not being broken.
Yeah, I mean, so I think a lot of times, so the way that I was coming from it is like a lot of times, it's a training situation. We haven't trained men in a way that they need to be trained. So there are multiple different ways that can manifest itself, right? And so for some men, the ones who are putting in the work, for example, a lot of times they, it's so the issues can manifest in different ways. So like you could have a man who is doing well at work. They're capable, but they're not able to have conversations with their, the tough conversations with their wives, or maybe they're not having the time, they're not spending it with their family and that sort of thing. Because although, they have been able to be driven in one area for whatever reason, they also don't have what it takes to actually excel in other areas. So it's not an issue of them being broken. It's an issue of them not having the skills, not being taught the skills to do some of these things. And like you could have specific, I forget the term that is used, but it's kind of like it's a domain specific skills, right? You can have domain specific skills that don't necessarily translate into other areas. So you could be, so if you have parents, for example, who pushed you to do well, to do math or whatever the case may be, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are great at, having conversations, building friends, all that good stuff. And so what I do with my training ultimately is I show people where their pressure points are. And then I try to help you to basically train within those pressure points. It's called internal stability. That's what I meant by not broken, because what we need to do is train, not, it's something that could be fixed if we were to train it right.
Well, the thing about it is too, we have to understand again, as generations have proceeded, we were so into just taking over by force that we forgot taking over by heart.
Yeah.
Okay. As women, we had the heart. As women, we did the community stuff. The men would just join us to establish that that's my wife.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here. Don't come to my house looking for a good woman, because that's my woman. It was more or less an image of a man being in the household. No one knew behind the doors that he wasn't talking. No one knew behind the doors that he wasn't integrating with the children, because she was the nurturer. So she was integrating with the children. You know what I mean? He was going out to work every day. So the thing about the integration was always behind the door, but it didn't matter because every house was doing it. It didn't really look at as being broken because everybody did it. Well, have you seen Mr. Solomon? He went to work. Okay, well, he's good. Nobody's wondering what he's thinking. Other than when he sits down at dinner, that he gets the biggest piece of chicken. He gets the bigger meal, because he's the male in the house. But no one was really into wanting to know anything more about him. And if he was broken, he was not the man that should be in the head of the household. If he was the man complaining or making a rough about, different things, why is he stepping into that? Where's his wife? Where's the woman in the house?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to ask something, Felice?
Well, I want to maybe not ask it yet, but because I'm hoping as Nanette is going through the list.
I am.
So
okay. I didn't realize there was a list.
Okay, there's a list.
Hold on this, because it was something you said that really makes me want to jump in and say, well, so, and thank you for recognizing that. I'm like, oh, but yeah, let's go through the list. And then I want to ask this question probably as a whole, because I don't want us to get kind of, I'll take you down the rabbit hole and just in half a second. But let me just say this part, because Nina knows this very well of my mantra, my mindset of go where you're celebrated and not tolerated. But you need to surround yourself with people who celebrate you, or you celebrate and not tolerate. So, and so I want to ask some or make some specific statements around after we go through this list and ask you some questions about that.
Okay, awesome.
So the next thing, of course, is the point that you made about being undertrained, and you've already tapped into the undertraining, and I've already expanded on it as well. As like I said, as mothers who raise boys, and without the male in the home or without the father being there, even if the father is working, it doesn't necessarily mean that the father is not there on a regular basis. It just means that he's not there the main hours when things are going on and boys are being raised. Does your program extend to the younger generation where the boys get, other than them playing basketball or sports or doing something, where is there a moment where they get to voice, or where the older gentlemen that you work with as consulting are voicing it and extending that to the younger generation? Because I see the gap in between is the gap again of the lack of communication between the male figure being in the home and being respected as the male figure. A lot of times we get the male figure in the home and you want him to do everything that the female does, or that the female is doing everything that the male does. So do you have that extension when we talk about undertrained?
Right. So it's a couple of things. So let me, and I want to also touch on something that you said right before too, in terms of, not knowing that the men, were not, integrated with the family too. And so there's a couple of things. First, the program as of now, I'm looking to try to expand it. I started with the folks, if you're in business, you do your ideal client. My ideal client ultimately was someone like me. But I have a son. And so all the things that I'm learning, I also try to tell him, because I'm, as I learn this stuff, I'm thinking to myself, damn, I wish someone would have told me this. I'm passing. So I do think there is an opportunity. I'm looking for ways to reach out to young folks. This is not a nonprofit; it is an LLC. So I'm looking for ways to partner with, either nonprofit or government to fund that for the youth. That said, here's what I want to say with respect to the training, because you touched on this a couple of times. You said the women are raising the men and things of that nature. I don't necessarily think that it is the women that's doing it completely. I think it was our understanding of what was necessary. And I want to say that it was necessary at the time. We came from the savannas or Garden of Eden or whatever you want to say, and the world needed to be tamed. And that did require physical skills. We were in a state where we did have to go out and protect against things that would come in and harm us. And so because we are the animals with the most capability in terms of our brain, we were able to solve a lot of these problems. So now we're not living in a state where we're constantly worrying about our physical security. And so what that meant was we had a whole host of people. There was one leader, right, that probably was using their brain, more likely than not, was saying, hey, or their relational skills, and gathering people together, but we had a volunteer force of people who would clear the forest or build the buildings and all this other that provided. And that's all that was needed and didn't cause any kind of friction, because although they weren't integrated, there was roles being played, right? Women at home raising the kids and making the home, and I can bring in the bacon or the monies. And so there was no kind of friction as a result of that. Nowadays, though, when we're now in a service economy, where more and more of what's needed, everything's being automated. What's needed is what the managers are doing. It's being able to organize. And so what's happened is, and whereas we were teaching our kids to go in and, be rough and tumble and all this other stuff, and I'm not saying that we should make people weak, what we did not do is teach them the very things that would make them integrate, the parents, the fathers integrated, right? It's how do you have these conversations? How do you stay within, yourself long enough when you're feeling internal disruption that you don't run from it? So that's what is happening. And I think we inadvertently, I want to say it's both men and women, we're saying to men, you have to go lead, you have to succeed, you have to dominate, right? From earlier on, we're teaching them like rough and tumble play. You have to be the one who comes on top. And so what that did was gave us a catastrophic fear of failure. If I fail and I feel and I'm dominated, if I fail and I'm supposed to be the one who is leading, then I look too bad. I can't risk that. So as a result, you don't get the very thing that's going to get you to build those skills and be successful. That is failure. You have to have, like, an expert is somebody who has tried so many different ways and was like, okay, that didn't work, I'm gonna go here, and then they've found what actually works. They can tell you all the different ways it didn't work because they know for sure that's failure. And so we have inadvertently forced our men to fear the kind of failure that would actually make them able to take all of this stuff. And so and I want to just say this, and it's a little different from women. So women now have been given access. Before, the reason why they weren't dominating before is they weren't given access, right? They now have been given access. What they had with them is the thing that ultimately it seems like it will hold them back, and it does to so many different women, but it also is the thing that makes them succeed. It's the permission to fail. When you are not expected to be the one who succeeds and leads, it's like people aren't even expecting it. Okay, well, I'm under the radar until all of a sudden you see me leading and dominating. It's a permission to fail, and we have to give men the permission to fail as well. As we're raising them, like, go ahead and fail. Go try this and come do it again.
Oh yeah, that's powerful. That is powerful.
Yeah, we have to understand too that in allowing it can't be a punishment.
Exactly.
Behind the failure. Exactly. We cannot continue to condemn those that don't like this or don't like that because we want to lead them in a certain direction. We just like we leave it open for the young women to make up their minds what they want to do. We have to also leave that to the young men. You don't have to be this because dad was that, or because granddad had that, or whatever. You have to be able to.
Let me say something with respect to this too, because I think part of the issue is that we can't really find the right balance between allowing boys to fail and having them behave like men, right? And so what we do when we're doing the raising is we want to be sweet to our girls, and I think it's an absolutely great thing. Like, we want to treat our women like princesses, and it's like, it's okay, it's all good. And I think that it's I'm personally fine with the traditional way. We don't want to like have the boys go out and start to behave like women. a lot of men, boys these days are behaving because, again, they don't know the correct balance. And I think the reason why they don't know the correct balance is they are looking at the noise
Mm-hmm.
and assuming that it's the thing that's working. So the perfect example, Trump probably would get his ass whooped by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's out here talking like, yeah, I'm tough, 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 tough. And it looks like what is actually working is his toughness. That's not what got him the position he got. What got him the position he's got is his ability to talk to people in a way that makes them feel like that he understands my plight. There's like when you actually look at the things that's working and you're like, let me isolate what actually works, then you could be like, all right, there's a difference between acting like a little, for lack, we're trying to be politically correct, but there's a difference between acting like that and also in being able to talk to people. To talk to people in a way that makes them feel understood, talks to them in a way that makes them feel influenced. There are a lot of men who are man's men who are able to do that. Denzel Washington, man's man, able to do that. And so you have to draw the distinction between a person, what's working, what the skills are that they need to be built, they need to build, and what we are afraid that our men are going to become if we don't say go and heck tough and all that. No, that's not what's working. That's not what.
Well, not only that, I need to inject this so that maybe you can tell me, because I've always attributed this to myself. My husband, my first husband, decided that marriage wasn't going to be it. That he was going to do for everybody else other than for home. And my decision was, if you're going to do for everybody else, you need to be with everybody else. I mean, sounds reasonable to me. That's what you want to do. I'm going to give you the freedom to do it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So we separated. My son was 2 and my daughter was 5. Okay. Critical time. Because my daughter knew her father.
Yeah.
But my son did not. I come from a background of sports. I come from a background of community. A lot of friends. Heap loads of friends. And a lot of them were males. So when women my age that were going through similar issues or some issues later on in life the same way, they would always ask me, well, how'd you get your son to be as attentive as he is to who he is? And I said to her, I didn't have the uncle theory. There's no uncles coming in here. There's no one visiting and running in and out. But there's men that take him for his haircut. There's men that take him to different places that were friends of mine. And I would just say to them, listen, he can't be around a whole house full of my mother, my grandmother, me, his sister. No, we got to get him to understand there's a whole nother world that I have no knowledge of what they do, what they say. And I'm talking that same thing that you said in your opening about men not coming home and talking the same way they do at the barbershop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit in the barbershop with them.
Yeah.
But he needs a haircut.
Yeah.
So I need my friend to come and pick him up.
Yeah.
Hey, can you pick him up and take him for a haircut?
Yeah.
And sometimes that haircut would be all day long. I'm calling on the phone. Where are you? Did he eat? Did he do this? Did he do? And they're telling me, hush, we'll bring him back tomorrow morning. So they've done that. And these are people now that I've known. My son is now 40 years old, and they've known him. He affectionately refers to them as uncle.
Yeah.
Or he affectionately refers to some of them as cousin.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is he always had that male push.
Yeah.
Someone I trusted.
Yeah.
And someone I didn't ask questions when they came. Well, what did you do?
Right.
I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to know because they need that time.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to the thing. You both were touching on it, and I want to say this because it's like the messaging. Where is the messaging coming from? And there's such a division of societal messaging versus like if you're looking at men in our community and how the women are supporting them or not, or giving them this either support or like I said, being celebrated instead of tolerated and vice versa, versus as you have mentioned, uh, the person in position of this country, and having all of that messaging going on, right? And it's such, a conflict of how do we like turn our ears, a deaf ear to, what is going on, and we can't turn a deaf. We've got to be paying attention. But then how do we uh, create that community of no matter what you are, who you are, or who God says you are, as opposed to who people that want to keep you down and do that, say who you are. So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's just a work that that is constantly needing to be done.
Yeah. No, completely. And so to weave the two of what you guys said together, what I think is true of what you're saying. How do you not necessarily play a deaf ear to it, but get the right guidance? And I think that's key with respect to what you were saying, and that is that you had, because it's I think it's not the case that if you have a mother at home without the male figure, that they don't get access to male figures.
Right.
What happens is the streets is where they find the male figures.
Exactly.
And the male figures that they find are going to lead them down a path that's not great.
Exactly. And it also is the excitement of what's going on that's different.
Yeah.
The youth that I worked with over the years, they all, male, female, it didn't matter. They all enjoy what the excitement is.
Yeah.
So when you start telling them we're going to the library, and they already went to school, it's overburdened. That's where the video games came in. It was easy to do the video games because that's a difference between school and it's an alternative to the street. And I could just stay home and play video games all day. You know what I mean? We used to do it with the pinball machines in the corner store. You go to the corner store, you play pinball for a while till the store owner kicks you out because he finds out you're not buying anything. You're just playing the pinball machine. But the thing is that when you don't have an alternative and you don't have an alternate way of doing things, you get what you said in your opening, male withdrawal.
Yes.
They withdraw to their room, they withdraw to silence, they withdraw to negativity, and girls do too. It's not just, it's youth, period. But since our conversation is dwelling on the male building, it becomes the withdrawal. And it's not so much that, they withdraw as boys, they withdraw as men too.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. This is where it begins.
We see it as men.
Yeah.
That withdrawal might have started when they were in their younger years, and no one never pointed it out. No one ever went in and tried to tap the shoulder and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You don't know. But the thing is, a lot of these organizations, I'll put it nicely, a lot of these organizations, including family services, do a disharm rather than a help. By ignoring this key factor that they withdraw, and their withdrawal is where they find the alternative of where they're going to be, as Felice said, where they're going to be, celebrated. Well, if I'm going to be celebrated because I fight, let me fight. If I'm going to be celebrated because I sell drugs, let me sell drugs. If I can be celebrated for doing the negatives, then why not do the negatives? Because no one is celebrating me for the ABCs. No one is celebrating me because I can read a poem or memorize a poem. So I think that part of it, even, going through the stages that you have developed. I think that part of it is trying to, and I'll ask, how do you get the women to not fight and argue you?
I think so. I was about to say. I think that.
Yeah, because the thing is that
you got the answer to that question.
Trying to convince a woman that's raising a male child that he needs a male in his life. I can't tell you how many women told me, you're taking a chance. Let
me make sure I understand the question. So when you say you're taking a chance, what do you mean by that?
Like, in other words, I had a guy that did, if I couldn't get my son to the barbershop, he'll come and get him and take. Well, are you dealing with him? Do you have a relationship? What kind of relationship? Even though it was just friendship. Well, how are you trusting that friendship that he's telling your son you need to ask him what's going on? How do we get women to understand that, the part of a male growing up, just like we surround our young girls in the kitchen and want them to learn how to cook around the aunts and the females, they need to be around the men to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because them aunts in the kitchen, some of them are smoking, some of them are, drinking, some of them are cussing, some of them are, praising God. You have all different type of personalities that the daughters are introduced to, but the males don't get introduced to an overall picture.
Yeah, and so I would say this, two things with respect to that. First, I think it is about the woman. And by that, I mean, you are a woman who would people that would lead them astray anyways, right? So like, I would imagine that even if it were women that you were around with respect to a daughter, they wouldn't be the ones smoking and drinking and talking all that, that kind of thing. Because women could be led astray too. I see a lot of videos of women out fighting each other and all that good stuff.
Right.
And so that could happen too. So I think the first step is to be the kind of person where you would have the male figures in their lives that you could trust. And so maybe what's happening is the women that you're talking to do not have male figures in their lives that they could trust. So it is a big risk. It's the second thing that I would say too, is I feel like perhaps it was a sign of the times, right? Right after a certain point, like you went from a period where, the conservatives use this all the time, but they say, like, with welfare, one of the things that was pushed on welfare is like you had to not have a man in the house in order to get the benefits. And so you went from a period where you did have those two family households, multiple reasons, whether it's, are men being jailed or whatever is happening, the men were then left out of the house. I think women, the reaction, and I think it's a natural one, was to say, hey, listen, I can do this on my own. I can figure it out on my own, right? And so I think that's part of what happened during that stage. But I feel like, and I hope that, I hope that part of what's happening where we see men and women are at each other's throats is like, yeah, you're not this enough. And then I hope that part of what comes out of it is that women are starting to see the kind of men that have been created, that have been raised because there was no man in the house. And so I think that it is a sort of, all right, we tried this, it didn't seem to work. Let's see if we can come back to getting some of the men together. So that's what I'm thinking is two things. You have to be the kind of woman to have the right guys around. And then I hope that it was a time period where we're like, okay, well, we don't have them, we'll figure it out on our own. And now it's like, okay, well, yes, you do need them, so let's bring them back into the yeah.
Absolutely. So how did you
your audio is, I don't know if it's me or if it's you, but I feel I'm having difficulty hearing your audio, Felice.
Me? Oh, really?
Felice.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, this is much better. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I need to speak up. So, how do you feel personally about your journey? And I know that I want to say that I know that you probably feel hopeful, but from your perspective of your success in walking the path that has been laid out for you. I mean, everybody has a path, right? But so from all standards, you would fall into the success category, right? Of navigating a path to accomplishment of your turning, you're married with children, and again, those things, and you have a calling to help others to get to that. But how do you feel about your journey and what got you here? Because, as you said about your son, you wish, you're navigating for him and you wish you had that. So then how then did you get to where you are without having this specific thing, or did you?
Yeah. So I want to say that there is a humongous element of it that is luck. So I was actually born in Haiti, and I came here when I was 7. And so I remember going back after the earthquake in 2011. So the earthquake is 2010. I went back in 2011. I saw people, who were destitute, like my age. And I was like, man, if not for the, the luck of coming to the US, that could be me.
Sure.
So there's that. And so that's number one. Number two is there is the thing that is what your parents are able to push you through. So one of the things that you talked about, Nanette, is like the excitement. And that's something that's human, that we need, we seek newness. We seek the excitement. And so having parents who are going to say, you're going to go and sit down and do this thing is absolutely necessary in terms of building, because as an adult trying to do the kind of things that I have to do and having to force myself, it's so much tougher if you didn't build the habit somebody was forcing you to do it. There's a lot of things that I've built in terms of habits that a lot of people didn't have someone else pushing them in that direction to do. So I can commiserate with folks who, and I give so much props to anybody who was like, bro, I didn't have any of that. And I have to build it on my own.
Sure.
And it's the truth. It's like, yes, there are multiple reasons why you may end up where you are, but you're the person responsible for getting yourself out. Nobody else is coming.
Right.
And so you have to, if you are hearing this message right now, I'm not saying that your life wasn't tough, but it's your responsibility. So now you have no excuse. You've heard, like there's a lot of people who didn't hear, but if you've heard, you have to now go do the hard stuff that you didn't have someone pushing you to do. So that's number two. The third thing that I want to say is, that said, when I talk about reaching into the heavens, I am talking about the possibility and the potential that each and every one of us has. I do not feel like I've hit my potential. A lot of people will look and be like, oh, he's this comparatively, but what could I have been? You know what I mean? And the reason that has happened is because I didn't feel the permission to be my full self. I was always managing how I was being perceived. I was afraid of failure and all this other stuff, as opposed to being and showing up my full self. And this is what I want to teach people, because when you show up your full self, when you're okay with whatever it is that is the pressure of the moment, right? Oh, how am I going to look if I fail? Or how am I going to look if they're going to look at me and think this, that? Like, when you can be your full self, you can be your best self.
Yes.
You're trying to teach people. That's what I'm trying to teach people in terms of getting that internal stability, is the ability to get there. And the final thing I want to say is, there are a lot of people who stumble on it. And that's what I want to remove, right? They stumble on these things. Life happens to, push them in a direction, and they find a thing that works for them. And even in a lot of these cases, we're calling it work for them, right? Because we are saying, okay, you hit financial success, but their lives are a complete mess. They hate themselves, whatever. There's a lot of rich people who end up committing suicide. So it's not a complete success when you think about that, because there's a lot of things that they haven't dealt with themselves, but we're just calling it success. And so I say that to say what I hope to do, just the same way as I'm trying to isolate the noise from what actually works, is to try to tell people, here's what actually works. You have to build that internal stability. You have to show up. You have to feel yourself, softening because you're afraid of how that person looks, and say, you know what, no, I'm going to behave as if I am, like you said, where I'm a person who's who is celebrated. I'm celebrating myself in this moment.
Yeah.
I am. So that's where it is. That's how we can develop and become our full potential.
And we have to, in order to develop leaders, they have to come from a community that has and will support them, as well as a family. Because they have to understand the soil that they're trying to plant in has to be soil that will grow others to be those leaders.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense. It's a cycle. It's a cycle.
I think you definitely hit upon something that I was going to say about the celebrating. You got, my mantra is go where yourself, but it's, you got to turn it to yourself. You have to celebrate yourself instead of tolerating yourself.
Well, not only that, if you celebrate yourself, it's very hard for someone to come in and give you a disillusion.
Sure.
If I'm proud about what I'm doing, who I am, what I'm interested in, if I have all that pride in everything, it's going to be very hard for someone to convince me not to be proud of who I am.
Exactly.
If I've already got it instilled in me. One of the things that you said that was interesting to me was you said men are misled to think that power is about domination, when true power is about relational skills. And that's what a relational skill is. I mean, if we all think about the best boss that we had, or the best supervisor we had, it was the one that could relate to real things. We really don't want to relate to the boss that just comes in and yells and screams and tells us what to do and walks in the office and puts his feet up on the desk.
Exactly right.
We don't appreciate them at all. So when you can have that type of relational skill, and you can put that in the mind of a child. I've seen children this past 2 or 3 years that have been phenomenal in comparison to their adult people that they're with. It's like, you need to listen to your kid more, because your kid is doing better than you as far as making relationships, be positive. So I appreciated that statement, but then you had this statement. Building any relational skills takes internal stability.
Yes.
That was okay. I understood that. The understanding that internal stability is trainable. I think that's where we lose it.
Okay.
So now tell me, how do we, I mean, I understand your program. We understand the little caveats you've given us, but how do we teach someone? I think in the word trainable, people always misinterpret, well, I just went through training. But when you took in that training, it gave you a skill. And you're telling me that all you thought about it was training? It didn't do anything. I don't know. You're the pro at this. Tell us what.
Yeah, that's interesting how you put it, because for me, I don't look at my program the way that people tend to characterize training, particularly when you talk about corporate training. Corporate training is essentially like, we take you through this curriculum and there's classes and all that stuff. And I think, what I wanted to do that was different also from that, but also from your traditional therapy, is that it wasn't just going to be insight. right? Here's, like, where we figure out where it stems from and all that good stuff. All that is great. And what that does ultimately is it could lead you towards what I feel like actual training is, which is ultimately getting the skills so that it is something that's internal to you, right? That to me is what training is. So like, here's one of the things that I was having a conversation with someone before. Is like I said, there's a lot of men who know how to court women. The way that they got there is their hormones, right? And so their hormones was strong enough that they kept coming back and trying, right? They probably 9 times out of 10, they probably were rejected, but they wanted to keep coming back and learning what's going to work. That's training. That's what I call in my program reps or repetitions. Like in any kind of thing that you're training, sports, you take 100 shots or whatever. So you have to get the repetitions. And so what I do with my training that, becomes domain specific, like let's say you can speak to women really well, but then you can't necessarily go in and face the scrutiny of presenting to somebody in public. What I do is I put you in those scenarios so that you can feel the internal disruption. And we train you to figure out how you would best be able to respond to it. We put you in these various different scenarios so that, you can then learn in different domains that this is what it takes. This is how you manage that internal disruption. It doesn't necessarily go away. You get to the point where you've had enough of it that you trust yourself and your ability to handle that when it shows up again.
And I think I'm going to touch on what Felice said. Go where you're celebrated and not tolerated. But I'm going to add to that. And though you're celebrated, understand that it's for the moment. Most celebrations that other people give you are not lifetime celebrations. You have to have that lifetime celebration within yourself. That lifetime. I mean, let's look at it this way. You're an attorney. Most people would say, well, if I don't need an attorney, what do I need him for? You could be the best attorney there is, but until I need that best attorney, but you yourself should celebrate the fact that you went through school and you trained and you did this and you did that and you've had success as an attorney. You should be celebrating that. But everybody's not going to celebrate you all the time.
Yeah, very true.
So you have to have that self, But there's
a difference too, still, Nanette, because they're celebrating your achievements, but not celebrating
and that's what most people do. And that's what most people do.
It's the you as a person that
needs to be celebrated.
Celebration, then the accomplishments and everything.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I have
apologize real quick. I'm going to start
you said you had a hard stop, and I would we need to go over. We need a part 2, part 3.
Well, not only that, I just want to conclude with telling the guests that we will have a part 2, part 3, because we got a deep dive.
I would love it. Absolutely.
But the thing about it is, this is where you can reach him. He does have to go to another podcast, but this is where you can reach him. In the meantime, because we're gonna get him again. We're gonna get him again. So this is in the meantime. And we want to thank you so much for stopping in and stopping by and giving us your time. We want to thank you for being you. And Felice can't put out her last question, so we're gonna say to you that there's more.
Yes, I'm ready.
There's more.
Let me know and I'll come join. I had a great time. It was a great conversation. If I didn't have this 7:30, we'd definitely continue. And so let's definitely do it again.
Yeah.
All right then. Have a good evening. And thank you, guests, for joining in. We did have a couple of people that jumped in and they've been watching. So we appreciate them. And make sure you watch the replay. Those of you that didn't catch it, catch the replay and look out for him to be in the December issue, the holiday issue of the magazine. I'm sure he will be there because I'm going to convince him that he needs to be there. So he's going to be there. So have a good evening.
even more.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will be in touch.
All right. Talk soon.
Appreciate you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good evening. Okay, Felice, we're gonna end our program as we normally do. I thank you.
Awesome. That was a super fantastic conversation.
And not only that, I just think that you know, in wrapping it up and doing what we have to do, because we did have to say goodbye to him. He had a previous engagement, but I just want to wrap it up with this. People understand the importance when you're for yourself as well as those that are in your lineage. It's very, very important that we look at both sides of the spectrum, regardless if we have male children, female children. There's things that the females may need that the males don't need, and there's things that the males need that the females don't need. And he's given us a perfect platform to say that our males are in need of help, because now the odds are that we have more males in prison than we do in school. You know, and that just does not make sense. So we want to try to create a balance wherever we can.
Absolutely, and not just having that realization, but there's something that can be done about it. Right?
Yes. That there are things that can be done. Support your not only support your friends and support your family members, but support some of the local organizations that are trying to do different things, such as the 11 kilometers per second. Support these organizations, because these organizations are organizations that can uplift and change the trajectory of where things are going. We're always talking about march and hold signs and do this, but that's after things have been done. Let's get ahead of things. Let's start doing things ahead of time. But Felice, love you madly, sweetie. And I'm gonna put in for my ticket. Look, I'm putting in my tickets. So,
all right.
I'm putting in my tickets. I'm counting the days. I'm like, wait a minute now. When is this?
Okay, but just as a heads up, next week I'll be in Dallas. So
okay. Look, okay. Well, we're going to say goodnight, folks. We're going to end the streaming and take care. Take care. Please be blessed. Be blessed. Thank you for joining us.